Good evening, everybody, and I'm Kath Lloyd from Make the Change, and this is Let's Talk. And we're going to be talking about control today. I'm just somewhere different, I'm afraid, so that's why I thought I was all organised, but not as organised as I thought. Trouble with the internet connection and now the lighting, so I apologise for that. So this is the fourth C in the seven C's to keeping your normal, and we're going to be talking about control. So we've already talked about clarity, we've already talked about courage, and so this is the next step really in control and how to get control, because when you are on your change curve, hi Christina, really nice to see you here. When you are on your journey of your change curve and you are struggling to keep your normal, last week we talked about slipping down through the anguish, through the frustration of your change curve. Hi Anne, lovely to see you here. Hi Nick, nice to see you here. We talked about how the anguish and the frustration and all of the feelings have an effect on our clarity, and hence then has an effect on our communication with ourselves, but also with other people. Okay, so when we begin to feel totally out of control, all right, and that we are feeling out of control because our body is taking over our thoughts, and that's why we feel as if we haven't got the control. But actually, we have got the control, because when you think about the word control, it means have authority over. It means to have command, and so it's about finding the right way for you to get that control back, so that you can think clearly, you can feel what you want to be feeling instead of the anguish and the frustration, the frightening feelings that we feel that we're never going to get through, that we're going to come out through the other side. Okay, so this is going back to really start with stop, which I talked about at the very start of these Let's Talk live Facebook groups. And you popped up now, I saw you earlier. And it's about trying to stop yourself, all right, before you slip even further down the change curve. Because if you don't stop yourself, then you're going to get further and further down. So instead of feeling anxious, you will then begin to feel stress, okay? And then if you go even further, you will go down into depression, because you haven't found the right way to start reverting the change curve and coming up the other side, so that you can start taking action and then begin to level out so that you've got your normal again. Okay, so it's going back to starting with stop, and starting with stop was basically try and stop where you are at this precise moment with your feelings. Okay, so that's S. T is for take a break. Okay, take time to have a little think about it. Hi Devendra, I hope I've said that correctly. Nice to see you here. O is for observe those thoughts and those feelings and your behaviours, and then P is about pacing yourself so that you can start taking action. All right, because like I said, if you've got the control back, you can start putting yourself in the right state so that you can start thinking what you want to be thinking, which will lead on to feeling what you want to be feeling, which will then lead on to behaving how you want to behave. And that'll mean then that you can start taking positive action to really revert that change curve and come out the other side. Okay, and the problem is that a lot of people feel that they haven't got the control, and so keep on allowing themselves to think and feel and behave the automatic reaction to everything. But in fact, we've got a lot more control than we think we have. But it's about using all your resources, using the skills that you've got, and this isn't in a malicious way, using the support networks that you've got to help you find your control. All right, because if you go to the right people, they will help you to work out those feelings and those thoughts that you're not happy with, that you're not liking. Unfortunately, they might say things that you don't like, all right, but it's just them helping you to find the right way for you, all right, and it's about being open to suggestions as well, and because when we're in that state of lack of control, so thank you, Anne. Yeah, so it's like your best friends. Go to your best friends. Go to your manager or a work colleague at work if there's a problem at work. Go to your relatives. Go and spend some quiet time, perhaps talking to the dog or the goldfish, or perhaps, if you want to, download a lot of stuff that's going on in your head and in your heart if you are worried about the response you might get from a human being like your best friends, because it's about the downloading that is really going to start helping you move forwards. Because if you keep blocking stuff up inside of you, all right, it's going to go round and round inside your head. It's going to get you really, really frustrated, and the emotions and the negative thoughts are going to escalate and escalate and escalate until you are so out of control you don't know which way to turn. All right, so it's about downloading them so that you can start to think clearly. And people do this in different ways. I've talked so far about talking to someone about it. It could be that you find it easier to write things down, or use perhaps things like exercise to help you release that energy in a different way. Some people exercise. A lot of people run when they're very anxious, or go and pump weights at the gym. But it could be about being creative in the kitchen, doing a lot of cooking. I know one lady, and she'd always bring cakes into work, and the one day I said to her, do you bake because you're anxious? And she says yes, it really, really helps her do it. So it could be that way, or it could be music, it could be dancing. There's lots and lots of different ways that you can download and use some of that frustration in a positive way, in a creative way that is going to be really, really beneficial to you. Okay, so once you have started to, once you've started to get that control back, it's then about how you manage that new control. And this goes back to clarity, which we were talking about last week. Clarity and communication. All right, so it's going back to listening to what's going on in your head, listening to what's going on in your heart, so that you can try and put the two together. And I know I keep banging on about this nearly every time I do these Let's Talks, but it is about using the information that you're thinking and you're feeling so that you can work out what it is that you really, really want. And then planning how you're going to get there. But if you don't communicate with yourself correctly, how are you going to communicate to other people correctly as well, so that they can so that you can behave in the way that you want to behave to progress in whatever the situation is. Okay, so yes, control. Even though we feel we don't have it, we do actually have it, and we have a lot more of it than you think you have. It's about noticing it. It's about understanding it. It's about being true to yourself, and it's about being authentic. All right. Yes, it's important to be able to express the feelings in a safe way, and to have that bit of time where you need to give yourself that release. All right. But where it becomes unhelpful is if you allow it to continue and to continue on. So another thing that I find really, really helpful is to give yourself a time limit. All right. So yes, give yourself a time limit to wallow in self-pity, to have your anger time, but then to have a cut-off time as well, and stick to that cut-off time. And in fact, you know, this technique of having cut-off time is really useful in all sorts of different ways. So if it's about you trying to get perhaps a project written, or you've got a deadline for an assignment, then if you're struggling to get the motivation and you're procrastinating, then allow yourself a little bit of time to get to procrastinate. All right, but then say, okay, I'm going to procrastinate for this amount of time, but you know, at 9 o'clock, that's it. I'm going to put that procrastination to bed, and then I'm going to carry on. All right, and that is one example of how you can get control. All right, give yourself the time, give yourself the space to think, feel, do whatever it is that you need to do in a safe way, and then move on. But the time frame is really, really good to be able to do that, using time in a slightly different way than perhaps you've used it before. So this is only an introduction, and has anybody got any questions? That's what I need to find out, because you might be thinking something that I haven't sort of talked about. I might have overlooked it, especially with, you know, the internet connection here in the Holiday Inn. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. And all of those who know my IT skills will understand where I'm coming from. Well, you know, while you're having a little think about it, next week it's going to be the 5th 7th C in Let's Talk Keeping Your Normal, and it's going to be about commitment. So why is commitment so important when we are managing our normal and we want to keep our normal? So there's nobody's popping up any questions, but if anybody has got anything they would like to add or to ask, then please pop it in the box underneath. At a later date, that's absolutely fine. And what I have got coming up, which is quite exciting, if you are fancy going to Bath in October, I think it's the 15th and 16th of October, there's a great event on called Achieve, which is all about being the best that we could be. And I'm going to be there. I've got a stand there, and it would be great to see you if you're there. And in November, I've got my own Stress Relief Awareness Day. It's the third one, third year running, and I'm really excited about it. And that is a day of fun, education, inspiration, with talks, but also time to try some of the complementary therapies that are available to you. And it's a day when I have a lot of other therapists with me, experts in their field, so that you can sample some of the different complementary therapies that are out there that you might not have tried before. And I'm really excited about again about that day. As soon as that day's finished, I'm already thinking about next year's and getting excited about it. So I'm really looking for those forward to those two events coming up. And then later in the year, I've got my first book coming out, which I'm going to be selling at my Stress Relief Awareness Day. Which is called When Dad Became Joan. Life with My Transgender Father. So that's going to be out in November and on sale in December. And other than that, I'm going to say goodnight to you. Thank you for being with me, and I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at 8 o'clock, hopefully on time, because internet coverage should be a bit better next week. I'll have it a little bit more organised, and we're going to be talking about commitment. So I'm going to love you and leave you. Have a great evening, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.